What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm over here in the race car trailer. We're gonna play with the hot rod today. It's been a couple weeks since we messed with it. I haven't been over here and cranked this thing since we got back from Indiana. So it's been 2 weeks. We went racing with Randy's car last weekend. Had pretty good success. The car is still a little bit slow, but it's getting faster. But we ended up getting the win out there, so that was a good time. We're making progress in the right direction. I think we'll be out with his again probably in 2 or 3 weeks. This weekend, I'm planning on testing this thing somewhere. Dig or Die is coming up next weekend. That's at back of the track, Rockingham Dragway. Hopefully I can get down there and do pretty well. We done pretty well last time we were out there, so hopefully the car continues to make progress. We got a lot of stuff we got to change though to get this thing back of the track trim. It's amazing the difference of everything you got to do to go back and forth. So that's what we're going to work on today. First, I'm going to crank it up, make sure everything still runs. I do have a few things I need to do sensor-wise. I'll show you what we got to do for that. But hopefully this thing will be ready. We can go testing this weekend in Dig or Die trim. If you want to support the channel, guys, I really appreciate it. Head on over to turbojohnracing.com, grab yourself some hats and t-shirts. Comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, like I said, I hadn't been over here in a couple weeks. I did just try to bump it over. One of the things that we started doing is loosening our cap back here every time we got done racing, and there was no water in the cylinders, so we have not tried to crank it yet, though. But one of the things I got to do, I don't know if y'all remember when we were at English Mountain, we had this crank sensor error, so I ordered another sensor, but I forgot to bring it with me. So this is a Hall effect sensor. We're using the 36-1 for the pickup over here. So that thing generally is pretty consistent, but the car cut off and it gave me an error one time, but it was, I don't know if that's the problem or not, but I went ahead and ordered a sensor. It's like 150 bucks. I'll throw that one in the box as my spare. So that's what we're going to do. I forgot to bring it, like I said, so I'll change that next time we come out. Under the back of the car, let me show you what we got to do back there. So right now it's hard to see, but right now there is 2 weight bars back there. So they are mounted securely to the chassis. We have more weight we need to put in though. So we got to take the wing off of it. And then we got 2 more bars, that lead bar, and then this lead weight as well. So we got to put all 3 of those back in it. We got to get those in and on. And then of course, when you do that, what happens is the back springs need to also be changed. The springs under there now, I think they're either 85s or 95s, what we ended up putting on it last time. So we're gonna need to take those off and I think I put 150s or 170s on it. Can't remember, but we got to put a stiffer spring on the back. We need to change the lower control arms. So we got to put a little bit more angle on it. We like to put more bite in the car when you're running backside. So what we'll do is that lower bar, we'll move it up a few holes on the body, and that will give it some instant center. It'll give it some instant center that is still not super long, but it will mainly just basically give it more anti-squat. And what the anti-squat will do is it'll make the chassis and the weight, instead of the spring and the shock absorbing the power and the transfer, it will actually transfer and separate the rear end from the body of the car and be pushing the tire down into the track. Now, some people, they make their car squat in the back of the track. Some people make them separate. Some people, there's a few people out there, Randy and Charles, they make their stuff separate really violently. Looks real similar to like a radio prep car. So I don't get mine to separate quite that much, but every car is different. And this is not secret sauce. You just got to go out there and test and figure out what your combination likes. Now, of course, we got the TRS struts on the front. Those things got massive. I think we got like 7 or 8 inches of front travel. So we'll have those things pretty loose on the front. That way it can come up. Now, one of the things I was fighting last time we were out there is the thing was trying to power wheelie early. And so I was having wheelie control, try to do this thing and pull some power out. But, maybe it's one of those things. Maybe we've got a little bit too much bias in the back of the car. I'm kind of scared to take out a lot of weight in the back though, because, the weight in the back is, in my opinion, what helps these things get down those marginal surfaces. So it's just one of those things. We're gonna have to weigh it out. What we might do, maybe, those bars over there are 120 pounds a piece. The one big one is 125. So we may maybe what I should do is cut one of those in half, and if I want to take a little bit of weight out, then start with taking half of one out instead of, a full one. Now, we don't run any weight on the rear end of this car. A lot of people do, and that helps. That unsprung weight makes it so that your shocks and suspension don't have to do anything with that weight when it's on the rear end. So I may start putting a little bit more on the rear end. I'll have to make some more pucks and weld some stuff on, but that might be something that we look into. Okay, let's fire this thing up. Let's see if we'll crank up and let it run for a few minutes and see if the motor sounds okay. Now, of course, this thing's got some rocket arms that are a little noisy, but we'll be able to tell pretty fast if they're excessively noisy or more noisy than before. All right, let's fire it up. Even when it's hot, I like to hit a little bit of flammable brake clean. All right, guys, well, it cranked up pretty easy. The little shot of brake clean always makes it happier. So I've had a few people, I know Billy at SRC, they've been having some issues with cracking heads, and they were a lot of questions and a lot of people commenting about, well, you're on methanol, you don't need to run water. So in my previous experience, I have cracked 2 sets of heads with not having water in the motor, cracking the exhaust ports. And basically behind the runner, you know, there's not much material there. And so if you don't have something back there, if you don't have a solid head, it needs to be either filled with water, or maybe potentially if you're going to try to run it with no water, you can fill it with epoxy or concrete and have no issues. If you're not going to run water, that's okay. Or go to a solid head. But, you know, this thing might fail on me now, but right now I run water in the block and the heads. I got an aluminum motor. And of course, aluminum sort of sucks out the heat really fast out of the water, but it also cools down really quick. Now, the way I have this thing done, this is my radiator. It's a transmission cooler. And so basically, transmission cooler, I have a Davies Craig pump back here, and then I have a little reservoir here. And so what happens is it just circulates through this, and you know, this pulls out some heat, but I'm not using it really to cool the motor a ton. I use it more as a heat sink, just to keep the hot spots out of the heads is what I do. And so basically I just circulate it down through the back here. It goes in here and then goes down through the motor and then comes back out the normal thermostat housing, goes through the cooler and then goes to this pan or this container. It goes to this tank, and then this tank feeds the pump here. Now that's a 150, I think it is, on the pump, but it works pretty good. So overall, I'm pretty happy with, you know, the way it works. I may end up getting a little bit larger radiator. I've got a Honda radiator, but Mike bought a nice little aluminum one that's got some number 16 bungs. I may switch over to that here at some point. And I've also, you know, I block it off at the block down here. But I mean, it does circulate through the heads and the block, but mainly it's through the heads is where most of our circulation happens. But I'm probably going to redo that. I'm going to uncap that and do a bigger aluminum radiator, because in the summertime I want to be able to drive this thing back to the pits. If you run no water, or even in my case when I run this limited water, it doesn't do a good job of cooling, so it makes it hard. So it's one of those things, especially when it gets late in the rounds. It's very important to be able to run this thing, get back to the pits as quickly as you can, so you can look at the data logs and get ready to race. So, all right, guys. Well, I've showed y'all a million times what we got to do to the car. I've got it in other videos. I'm not going to bore you with that video. I just want to give y'all an update today on what was happening. We're trying to go racing this weekend. Nahana is testing on Friday, but the weather, man, is on this pattern to where it is raining every weekend. Twin Rivers has got a race up in Virginia. Corey Stamper and Olympia and all those guys are going to be there. It's going to be a great event. I was thinking about trying to hit that, but it's like 300 miles away. And I think they're going to be good on weather. So, you know, we may end up there. Looking at it, though, it looks pretty fast. And so with Dig or Die coming up, you know, it's hard to make changes within a few days to go from one extreme, from a front side to a back side, essentially, or from a fast to a slower. It's harder. There are some people that do it, but I fail at doing that, going from one to the other real quick. So usually I need a test session in between. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Get a test session for us coming up this coming weekend somewhere. All right, guys, comment, like, and subscribe. Appreciate y'all watching the channel. Head on over to turbojohnracing.com if you want to support the channel. Grab some hats, t-shirts, got mugs. We got a whole bunch of stuff over there. Appreciate it, guys. Later.